Hello, everyone. Before the cameras rolled, before the laughter cue lights blinked on, Johnny Carson would glance toward the curtain and sometimes know tonight was going to be dangerous. Not dangerous for ratings, dangerous for the human being about to step into the spotlight. At 11:30 p.m. across America, televisions flickered to life as the Tonight Show theme promised comfort and comedy. But behind that promise, something darker waited in the wings. This was not just a talk show, it was a pressure chamber. Under the blazing lights, legends sat smiling while their bodies trembled, their minds drowning in pills, alcohol, and white powder. These guests weren't acting, they were surviving minute by minute, heartbeat by heartbeat, hoping the interview would end before the drugs wore off. Night after night, Johnny Carson welcomed America's brightest stars while silently witnessing 8 of the most troubled addicts ever to sit in his chair unravel in front of millions without anyone noticing. Inside NBC Studio One in Burbank, the lights burn relentlessly. Elizabeth Taylor feels a deep, bone-level chill, not from the air, but from a body screaming for relief. In her private dressing room, the most famous woman in the world shakes uncontrollably. On her vanity sit vodka and opioid pills. She swallows Percodan dry, chasing it with alcohol. This is not indulgence, it is necessity. Minutes later, numbness spreads through her body. Pain retreats. Reality softens. When Johnny Carson announces her name, thunderous applause fills the studio. She glides out, regal and smiling, yet her balance is fragile. Johnny senses it immediately. The scent of alcohol, the way she leans too heavily on his arm. During the interview, her thoughts lag behind her words. She laughs to cover the silence. When the cameras stop, her body collapses inward. She whispers for backstage access, not for rest, but for another dose. Years later, another dressing room feels less like a workplace and more like a mausoleum. Burt Reynolds stares into the mirror, barely recognizing the reflection staring back. His cheeks are sunken, his body alarmingly thin, his once powerful frame reduced to something fragile. Rumors swirl through Hollywood hallways: AIDS, terminal illness, sudden collapse. The truth sits openly on the counter: a bottle of Halcyon. After a devastating injury on city heat, pain became his constant companion. Sleep vanished. Relief arrived only through pills. Not a few, dozens, enough to blur consciousness, enough to keep him existing, but not living. When Burt Reynolds walks onto the stage, applause crashes over him, but it sounds distant, muffled, as if coming from underwater. Johnny Carson notices everything immediately: the drastic weight loss, the trembling hands, the vacant stare. Burt jokes his way through the interview, using humor as camouflage. The audience laughs, unaware they're watching a man chemically propped upright. Johnny does not laugh. When the cameras shut off, Burt collapses, unable to stand without help. Off camera, the leading man disappears, leaving only a man enslaved by sedatives. In June 1968, the atmosphere inside New York City is heavy. The crowd holds its breath as Judy Garland prepares to step on stage. Behind the curtain stands a woman shaped by decades of pills, a cycle imposed on her as a child at MGM, one she would never escape. She swallows pills before stepping into the light. Her legs shake. She clutches Johnny Carson's hand with desperate strength. The audience sees affection. Johnny feels panic. Her speech bursts forward, fast and manic, then abruptly collapses into silence. And then she sings, seated. Her voice cracked, breath fragile, yet the emotion devastates the room. The applause feels endless, but it carries the weight of goodbye. Less than a year later, London reports her death from an overdose. For those who watched her that night, it was inevitable. By the late 1970s, a nervous energy ripples through the studio whenever Richard Pryor is announced. He bursts onto the stage, electric, volatile, impossible to predict. Minutes earlier, he had freebased cocaine. inhaling raw intensity straight into his bloodstream. His heart pounds uncontrollably. His thoughts splinter. He jokes about drugs, about fire, turning danger into comedy. The audience roars, unaware they are laughing at a warning. On June 9, 1980, that warning becomes prophecy when Richard Pryor sets himself on fire during a cocaine binge, suffering horrific burns. Years later, he would recount the tragedy in Live on the Sunset Strip. But on this night, the flames are still inside him. When the cameras cut, he staggers to the wall, gasping for air, already craving the next escape from his own mind. When Liza Minnelli steps onto the stage, the orchestra swells with pure Broadway electricity. Sequins catch the light. Her smile is dazzling, almost blinding. To the audience, she looks unstoppable. But backstage, her hands shake violently as Valium and white wine collide inside her body. The daughter of Judy Garland, she carries the same inherited fear, the same learned reliance on chemicals to silence it. On camera, she laughs too loudly, moves too constantly, never allowing stillness to expose the cracks. Johnny Carson watches closely, noticing the glassy eyes, the restless limbs, the smile that freezes for half a second too long. When the show cuts to commercial, her energy collapses. She sinks into the chair, staring at her reflection, seeing her mother's fate staring back at her. Sammy Davis Jr. explodes onto the stage with unstoppable energy, a whirlwind of movement and charm. Cocaine, alcohol, and inhalants surge through his system, driving every step, every laugh, every gesture. He can't sit still. Sweat glistens beneath the studio lights. His long, pinky fingernail flashes briefly, a quiet signal only insiders understand. Johnny Carson sees it instantly. The audience doesn't. They cheer, convinced this is pure showmanship. But the moment the cameras shut off, the illusion collapses. Sammy's smile vanishes. His body trembles violently, drained of borrowed power. The entertainer disappears, leaving behind a man exhausted, cornered, and slowly crushed beneath the unbearable weight of expectation and addiction. Carrie Fisher walks onto the stage with razor-sharp confidence, fearless humor, and intelligence that slices through the room. To the world, she is Princess Leia, the face of rebellion, strength, and wit. The audience sees a modern icon, brilliant, composed, untouchable. But offstage, the truth is far more fragile. Cocaine keeps her upright, alert, fast enough to survive the spotlight. Ghosts of past LSD trips shimmer at the edges of her vision, colors flickering where they shouldn't exist. Her hand rises to her nose without thought, a soft sniff, a reflex. Johnny Carson notices instantly. He always does. On camera, Carrie Fisher dazzles. Her jokes land effortlessly. Her timing is flawless. The crowd leans in, laughing, impressed, convinced they're witnessing pure confidence. But when the cameras stop rolling, the borrowed energy collapses. Her shoulders sink. In the 1980s, Chevy Chase enters the studio towering and self-assured, radiating superiority. He is the golden boy of comedy, shaped by falls, pratfalls, and physical punishment from Saturday Night Live. Painkillers dull a spine wrecked by years of self-inflicted damage. Cocaine sharpens his edge, amplifies his arrogance, fuels the cold confidence audiences mistake for charm. His jokes cut sharper tonight, colder, more dismissive. Johnny Carson feels the tension shift. The laughter is there, but something underneath feels wrong. When the interview ends, Chevy Chase rises carefully, stretching just enough to test whether his body will obey him. Backstage, the illusion evaporates. He staggers to the wall, gasping for air, already craving the next escape from his own mind. When the lights of The Tonight Show finally go dark, what remains is silence. 8 legends sat in the same chair, hiding agony behind charisma. Behind America's favorite smiles, were bodies breaking, minds unraveling, and souls trapped in chemical prisons. The golden age of television glittered on the surface while quietly consuming its brightest stars. If this story moved you, like, share, and subscribe to uncover more hidden truths.